We've got a lot going on with the markets out there, and the US dollar is falling big time. It's fallen to the 14-year support level. You can see here on this graph. Once it breaks down through this, it's no man's land, and it can free fall for a long time. When this happens, this means that the cost of living and basically the power of the dollar is falling out. Cost of living is going to rise, power of the dollar falling out, and this goes hand in hand with what you're seeing with gold, silver, and all the precious metals. People are diving into them big time. But we've got big industries out here making moves, stopping people from getting their hands or even selling. Some people like scratching their heads like, why can we not even sell to some of these places? Well, like APMEX, their CEO just came out and announced a $20,000 minimum to sell your silver to them. That's up from the $10,000. And then you have Kitco putting a $5,000 limit on orders. And huge moves here that are pretty much unprecedented. We just witnessed gold and silver jump up and break not only records, but they hit these benchmarks that we talked about, the 51 and the 100. Gold's done just that. It surged past 51, and silver ran all the way up to like 118, pulled back. It's going to continue its tear as well. If bombs drop in any of these settings, whether it's Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, anything like that big on the world stage, you can expect gold and silver to continue to run. Now, Tether, if you missed it, they came out and they made a big move in terms of launching USAT. This is a federally regulated dollar-backed stablecoin for the U.S. market. It's official, okay? If you missed the news on the Genius Act, what they did is they connected the U.S. dollar to all these stablecoins before any other country could do it. And Tether just came out with a huge move and announced they were going to back their Tether with a 1/1000th of gold, which is huge, because anything backed by gold that you can redeem and get that gold is going to be utilized over anything else that you can't. This may be the closest you ever see us get a gold standard connected to the dollar, but it will not be to the dollar. They could have done that very easy, but they didn't, because this is not just de-dollarization. This is de-fiatization. They are killing the fiat around the globe. This is the move. Kill the dollar, fiat, all in one swoop. And it's not so much to kill the dollar all in all, it's to initiate this reset, to get it pushed onto this digital system, if you will, the blockchain system that we've warned you about this whole time, the beast blockchain system. If they can do it through Tether and all this, the U.S. will. And it looks like they are. Because remember, Donald Trump wrote an executive order that it wouldn't be called a CBDC. So you won't see it in that form here, at least under him. But this is how they're rolling it out, right in front of your face. So as the dollar is crashing out, so too are other fiats around the globe. Even though the dollar is crashing, it's still used for more than half of all the trade in everything around the globe. China only consists of like less than 7%. That's the reality of it. But what they're all preparing to do is to transition to digital. This is a huge setup. It's massive and it's underway. You can see that also in the reflection of the gold price, silver price, which will continue to run. It shows there's no confidence in not only the dollar, but in any of these fiats, which that's our privacy. When you give away the fiat, even though it may be worthless monopoly money, at least you have the privacy to go buy whatever you want with no one knowing. You have that freedom. That's all gone as soon as this reset happens, as soon as this transition goes down. It's in the midst of happening right now. So, heads up, everybody. Keep an eye on gold, silver, and I'm still wondering, is there anything in Fort Knox?
For the first time ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future, head start at life, and a fair shot at the American dream, something people don't talk about so much, at least not for the last 4 years they haven't been. Decades from now, I believe the Trump accounts will be remembered as one of the most transformative policy innovations of all time. But Nikki makes a lot of money, and she's generously stepping up. She's investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in Trump accounts to support the children and really the children of her incredible fans. That's great. Focus on that. Why should you give to somebody else's fans? Give to your fans. I like that. And I said, I'm going to let my nails grow because I love those nails. I'm going to let those nails grow.
I don't know what to say, but I will say that I am probably the president's #1 fan. And that's not going to change. And the hate or what people have to say, it does not affect me at all. It actually motivates me to support him more. And it's going to motivate all of us to support him more. We're not going to let them get away with bullying him and, the smear campaigns. It's not going to work, okay? He has a lot of force behind him, and God is protecting him. Amen.
The White House is working to get the word out about their brand new Trump accounts. Today, they hosted an event to talk about these new investment accounts that the Trump administration says are meant to give families a jump start on creating wealth for their kids. President Trump called this a historic moment.
Under this administration, we're going to leave every child with real assets and a shot at financial freedom. We'll ensure that Americans don't just end their lives with a nest egg, but instead all Americans will begin their lives with a beautiful nest egg. There's never been anything quite like this.
So how exactly do the Trump accounts work? Any child born between 2025 and 2028 is eligible for one of these accounts. And when parents or guardians sign their kids up, the U.S. government is going to put $1,000 into a tax advantage investment account. And from there, it works like a traditional IRA. This account is in the child's name, but the parents or guardians are in charge of it until that child then turns 18. Let's take a look at how much these accounts could make. The White House put out some numbers that they say are based on average stock market returns. And their projections say that if a family just lets that initial $1,000 sit there, the account will grow to $5,800 by the time a child is 18. This is money the Trump administration says could make a real difference for American children, and the accounts are set to go live this summer in July.
The Washington Post recently reported on an internal strategy document shared among immigration officials that details plans to spend $100 million over a one-year period to recruit gun rights supporters and military enthusiasts through online influencers and geo-targeted ads.
This is called a surge hiring marketing strategy document. It goes into extraordinary detail into the methods they want to use to reach more than 14,000 new employees for ICE to basically double the deportation strike force that they have on the street. How they want to reach those people is through social media marketing, real world marketing, right? Billboards and bus stops, kind of the classic traditional styles of advertising, but also through these unusually precise techniques that would include geo-targeting. So they would basically create a fence around gun shows, UFC fights, NASCAR races, military bases, to really try to identify who are these people who would be interested in becoming new soldiers for their fight against immigration. There's a pattern there that people are really seeing. And, you know, the broader message and all their advertising is they are characterizing this as a war against foreign invaders. They are not subtle about it, right? They're really using militaristic language to frame this as a battle of good versus evil. White, classic, traditional Americans defending the homeland against foreign invaders. And so you've seen in their marketing, it really is, you know, you have a lot of kind of army style messaging where it's big guys with guns on the border, you know, repelling the hordes. Or you have this more classical Americana, almost wartime propaganda from World War I style of advertising, where, you know, it's these kind of classic white Americans who are defending the West, moving out into the frontier, kind of fighting the horde. So this style of marketing is very new, even for ICE. You know, ICE has not really gone to this level of aggressive, you know, jingoistic messaging, but and they're spending a lot of money on it. So you're just seeing it everywhere on social media now. And the question is, who are they trying to attract?
What do you mean if I'm from this country?
I can hear you don't have the same accent as me. That's why I'm
Oh,
asking.
so you're going by accents now?
We just heard that agent saying, I can hear you don't have the same accent as me. That's why I'm asking you, which I think is a pretty stunning thing to hear. I mean, then so you're talking to them. You talk about the woman first, then there's him. And then actually Greg Bovino, right? The top guy at the time on the ground of all of this shows up by your window. And you've shared some more of that exchange. Let me play it.
The big boss over here.
What's going on?
They're just harassing people based on skin color. Are we in Germany?
No, come on.
What do you guys want to do today? You guys want to take me in or something?
Oh, that depends. Are you an illegal alien?
Illegal alien, man. I'm planet, yes. I might be from another planet.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
if that's the case, if you're from another planet, that counts too.
Well, if that counts, well, I'm an alien, guys. Let's do DNA tests and You got a lab? We can run some blood tests, see what the hell I have. You guys shooting at people, man. Somebody just got shot for what? Why did you guys shoot that lady? Answer me that. There's an officer today that shot a lady in the head, dude.
Really?
For what?
I don't know why they do the head, man. Huh.
You got all these stuff. You could have just got her, man. She's not gonna like fly out of the country.
Like an alien.
Like an alien with a spaceship.
With a spaceship.
Yeah.
So obviously you sound confident there, Ahmed, but I can only imagine. Obviously this is hours after Renee is shot and killed. And you're sitting there feeling that guys already told you that because of your accent, you have to prove you're an American. Greg Bovino walks up. Yeah. Did you feel scared a bit that things could go wrong?
I mean, it was very obvious to me by the way Border Patrol was acting with me unprofessionally that they really didn't care about my identity. There's something else other than what was obvious that was going on. So when he said, you know what? I know you're not an American citizen, and I demand that you show me proof of that American citizenship verification, documents, whatever. I need that. What's making me ask you this stuff is you do not sound like me. You don't have the same, and then he pointed to his face, you don't have the same accent as me. So I was shocked, I was startled, and I said, we're using accents now to verify citizenship? Are we using, it was just absurd to hear that, you know, for the first time in my life. I'm like, accents? Wow, there's so many different accents in America, right? There's the Spanish accent, there's the Italian accent, there's the Boston accent, there's the Texas accent, there's the Arkansas accent, which I'm not a big fan of. But then again, this guy chose to say, you got to sound like me to be a U.S. citizen. So I was like, hey, I'm not going to partake in this nonsense. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the same energy he's using towards me on him.
Global scrutiny of the Taliban in Afghanistan is back as its new criminal procedure code for courts has sparked a major controversy. Let's tell you more about this. Approved by Taliban supreme leader, this code comprising 10 chapters and 119 articles, reportedly, has been accessed by a human rights organization. Let's just take a look at how this code stands apart from the modern criminal laws in force across the world, for example. To start off, Muslims have been defined only as those following Hanafi school of thought, which falls within Sunni Islam. On the other hand, Shias and non-Muslims, like Sikhs and Hindus, have been categorized as heretics. The code allows the killing of anyone preaching beliefs contrary to Islam in public interest. Moreover, people can get a jail term of up to 2 years for mockery and ridicule of Islamic rulings. Meanwhile, the type of punishment in Afghanistan will now be decided as per the perpetrator's social standing, reportedly. While clerics will get away with mere advice if they commit a crime, the elite shall be summoned by a court. However, if the same crime is committed by the middle class, they will be imprisoned, reportedly. Additionally, those from the lower class of society will also be sentenced to corporal punishment. Even though slavery is prohibited in international law, the Taliban have legitimized it by citing it in several sections of the criminal code. Extensive use of flogging as punishment has also been allowed. Since taking over control of Afghanistan in August 2021, the Taliban have faced flack for the human rights record, exclusion of women from public life in many aspects by restricting their right to education, work, has become a major point of criticism. Recently, it issued new orders whereby barbers who shave men's beards in Afghanistan can be jailed up to 12 months.
President Trump has ramped up his threats against Iran, saying if they don't make a nuclear deal soon, the US will launch another attack. Live to Reid Butler in Los Angeles with the latest. Reid, his comments come as another fleet of US warships head for the Middle East.
A massive armada, that is how the US president is describing that fleet, Jane, headed by the US Air Force carrier, the Abraham Lincoln. Donald Trump has also warned that any attack would be far worse than the strikes we saw mid-last year if Iran doesn't agree to curb its nuclear capabilities. I'll read out part of Donald Trump's post online this morning. He wrote, "Hopefully Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons, one that is good for all parties. Time is running out. It is truly of the essence." I'll get to Iran's response in a moment because it was certainly very interesting, but I'll show you now the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He seemed to suggest this morning that regime change is also necessary in Iran.
Unless they are willing to change and or leave, have no way of addressing the legitimate and consistent complaints of the people of Iran who deserve better.
Now, as for Iran's response, Iran stands ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and interest, but if pushed, it will defend itself and respond like never before. Certainly concerning. Jane.
Reid,
US President Donald Trump's threat to acquire Greenland has strained transatlantic alliance. The president may have promised to not use military force to take over the Arctic territory, but the standoff has left deep scars on European Union. The bloc is now facing a fundamental question. Can the US be trusted with triad of security, trade and energy? European Union's top diplomat has expressed concerns over reliability of US. Kaja Kallas believes that changing tides in EU-US relationship are structural and not temporary. She also called on European nations to stop outsourcing their security and defense.
Europe is no longer Washington's primary center of gravity. The shift has been ongoing for a while. It is structural, not temporary. It means that Europe must step up. No great power in history has ever outsourced its survival and survived.
Kallas is not alone in believing this. French President Emmanuel Macron has also echoed the same sentiment. Macron says recent standoff on Greenland is a strategic wake-up call for all of Europe. Macron gave this remark as he welcomed Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen at the Elysee Palace.
France will remain committed to the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenland is not for sale, nor is it to be taken. Greenlanders will decide their future. France will continue to stand united with the Kingdom of Denmark. We are by your side. We were yesterday, we are today, and will be tomorrow. Thank you.
Sammen med kongeriget Danmark.
The French president also laid out three fundamental principles. First is asserting European sovereignty. Second is contribution to Arctic security. And the third is fight against foreign interference and disinformation.
The Syrian president, Ahmad al-Shara, is heading to Moscow as Russia moves to secure the future of its military bases in Syria. But it's not just Moscow that wants influence in post-war Syria. The US, for that matter, is also courting Shara, with President Trump praising his leadership and signaling strong support. And caught between two global powers, Syria is emerging as a key prize in a delicate region. At their previous meeting in October, the Russian president and Shara, remember, struck a conciliatory tone. It was their first meeting since Shara's rebel forces toppled Moscow ally and former President Bashar al-Assad. Russia's continued sheltering of Assad and his wife since their ouster has been a thorny issue. A little bit of background here. Russia was a key ally of the ousted President Assad during the bloody 14-year Syrian civil war, launching airstrikes on rebel-held areas of Syria that were controlled by Shara's Islamist forces. And Assad's toppling in late 2024 had dealt a major blow to Russia's influence in the region and laid bare the limits of Moscow's military reach as well, as it continues to fight a war with Ukraine. Since then, acting President al-Shara has been managing a rather delicate balancing act between both West and Russia in order to bring stability to his war-ravaged country. Shara has also embraced US President Donald Trump, who on Tuesday praised the Syrian leader as highly respected and said things were working out very well. The two spoke over the phone a day before the Syrian leader visits Russia. Trump's show of support contrasting with earlier threats by one of his key backers in the Congress, the Senator Lindsey Graham, who called for the U.S. to reimpose sanctions on Syria in response to this recent offensive. Shifting away from his threats, Graham on Tuesday instead credited Trump with restoring stability and demanded that Saudi Arabia use its influence on Syria to keep the region from falling further into chaos. Earlier, Syria's National Army had launched the operation to regain control over the country's northern east, where Kurdish fighters had created a de facto separate state during the brutal civil war. The operation ended with a ceasefire that has been described as fragile at the moment. The US had allied with the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces beginning over a decade ago to fight the Islamic State group, which had gained control over large parts of Syria and Iraq. But Trump envoy said this month that the partnership had outlived its usefulness and backed the Syrian government's efforts. The US has since helped move Islamic State prisoners held for years by the Syrian Democratic Forces to across the border in Iraq. Trump has ended sanctions and taken other steps to boost Shara at the urging of Shara's allies, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and despite misgivings by Israel.
You were a member of this committee. You authored legislation to prevent President Trump from unilaterally leaving NATO, you and Senator Kaine. Do you still believe that the U.S. benefits from NATO?
We do. I mean, the problem, but NATO needs to be reimagined as well in terms of the obbligation. And this is not new to this president. Multiple presidents have complained about it.
I
think this president just complains about it louder than other presidents.
Well, I'm just trying to be get a clear answer on where this administration stands relative to NATO, because it's been a very fuzzy message over the last year. And do you agree that we're stronger in confronting China when we do so with like-minded partners?
Yeah, but our like-minded partners have to have capability, and that's been part of the problem, is the erosion in European defense capabilities, because they've taken vast amount of the monies. These are rich countries, and because of the NATO umbrella, it gave them the flexibility to spend a tremendous amount of their revenues on social programs and not on defense. Now, maybe that trend line will begin to change.
Well, it's already begun to change, but part of that strength also comes from the unity with our allies. And to the extent to which that unity is undermined, like the talk about Greenland and antagonizing Denmark, then it undermines NATO's ability. And the only people who are excited about that are Vladimir Putin and President Xi.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I think our alliances in NATO ultimately are something that's going to work out. Our partners understand the importance of the U.S. presence in NATO. Without the U.S., there is no NATO. And we understand that in order for NATO to be stronger, our partners need to be stronger. We may be the richest country in the world, but we don't have unlimited resources. And as we reassign
exactly why we want to have allies and partners to help us as we're looking at conflicts around the world.
Yeah, but our allies have to be two things. They have to be willing to step up, but they also have to be capable of stepping up. And frankly, many of them have not.
This is no longer just Iran. This is no longer just the Middle East. Something much bigger is taking shape quietly, rapidly, and strategically, because the question being asked across capitals tonight is this: is China stepping into Iran-US standoff? You're watching Times XP. It's me, Dhriti Yatri. Well, multiple tracking reports, they have suggest that Chinese military transport aircraft have landed in Iran within a very short period of time, around 56 hours. The number that is being cited is 16 flights. If accurate, then this would mark one of Iran's fastest and largest airlift movement linked to Iran in recent years. Though Beijing has not confirmed the purpose of these flights yet, but the timing, that's what raising the eyebrows here. What could these flights mean? No official cargo list has been released, but analysts say that such aircrafts are typically used for military equipments, air defense system, radar and electronics, missile or spare parts, or high-level security coordination. Though there is no public confirmation that fighter jets like China's J-20 have been transferred, but suspicion alone is changing calculation here. This matters because at the very same time, US warships are moving closer to Iran. American fighter jets, including F-16s, are deploying and missile defense systems are being activated. The regional allies, they're put on high alert. This is no longer a bilateral crisis. This is starting to look like great power signaling. And then you have Mr. Trump. US President has dramatically escalated the tone here. He has called Iran's leadership illegitimate, urged political change, confirmed that the US armada is moving towards the region. Trump insists that the US hopes force will not be needed here, but he also says America is ready, watching and prepared. You know that dual message, it is deliberate. In the meantime, China is being watched very closely. China and Iran share deep energy ties, strategic cooperation agreement, a common interest in pushing back against the US dominance. China has previously helped Iran with surveillance technology, missile components, in fact dual-use equipments as well. So when Chinese military planes suddenly land in Iran during a US military buildup, it sends a signal, not necessarily of war, but of alignment. So this is not about dogfights yet. There is no confirmed clash, no missile fire, no jet that has logged in combat, but analysts say this is how confrontation begins. One side moves ship, another side moves aircraft, a third side quietly positioning the support, and suddenly every radar screen, it matters. This is a moment that the Middle East was never supposed to see. Saudi Arabia, Iran, and that too on the same side of a message, and Washington is watching carefully. For decades, the lines were clear. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, America's closest Arab allies, and Iran, the sworn rival. The region divided into camps. There was no confusion, there was no overlap, no middle ground here, but until now. Here's the trigger, war talks from Washington. As Donald Trump signals a possible strike on Tehran, the Middle East does not rally behind the US. Instead, it pushes back, quietly, firmly, and publicly. Riyadh just sent a blunt message. Saudi Arabia makes it absolutely clear that no attacks on Iran from Saudi bases, no use of Saudi land or bases, and no regional war on our watch. This is not silence. This is a statement. But wait, Saudi Arabia saying no to the US. Yes, that's what makes this particular moment really historic here, because this is a country that once coordinated every major move with the US, and now it is drawing a red line. Behind the scenes, there is direct talks with Iran. Yes, Riyadh isn't just refusing war, it is choosing dialogue. Saudi and Iranian officials have reopened channels. They are talking security, they are talking stability, they are talking survival. Old enemies are now speaking directly. In fact, The UAE follows the same path. Abu Dhabi also signals restraint, no escalation here, no participation, no regional firestorm. Together, the Gulf states are saying that this war will not be launched from our backyard. Now, this is a massive shift in Middle East politics. Once upon a time, Iran versus Saudi Arabia, proxy wars, shadow conflicts, endless escalation, and now there is de-escalation, self-interest, stability over ideology. The rules are changing. But why is this happening now? Because the whole region has learned something painful. Wars don't stay limited, strikes don't stay surgical. Chaos spreads, and that too really fast, and no country wants to be the battlefield again. You know what this means for the United States? America is used to leading coalitions here, used to regional backing, used to unquestioned support. But today, allies are choosing their own red lines. Washington's influence is being tested in real time. And yes, for Iran, this is strategic relief. Not support for war, but protection from isolation. Iran knows that its rivals don't want conflict. Its neighbors don't host the attack. Diplomacy has reopened doors. Now that changes the calculus. This is not just friendship. This is not survival. This is just politics. Saudi Arabia has not become Iran's ally, but it has become something more important. A break on escalation. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the final take. The Middle East is no longer playing by old rules. Former enemies, they are now talking. Traditional allies are saying no, and the power is being negotiated, but very quietly. One thing is clear here, if a war comes, it won't be launched the old way. And that may be the biggest shift of all.
It looks like Cuba is unraveling rather quickly, and they have been cut off from any money, any oil, any resources that they were getting this entire time for years through Venezuela. Now Trump making a comment saying that they're about to fall. The entire country is about to go under. They know this. They're sitting there watching. And just like he's done with every other leader he's approached, he's saying, look, strike a deal with us, accept our terms or else. So he's put some terms out there of which they're not saying what they are, but they pretty much want to oust the leadership in Cuba. Now, right now, Cuba has a massive ongoing problem here. The island's power grid appears to be imploding under strain. This is resulting in blackouts lasting up to 20 hours a day. So Cuba's electrical system has completely collapsed. And at this point, it's not going to get any better. There's no known time frame for when they're going to fix the grid. At this point, some are saying it's going to stay down throughout this process. So Cuba's electrical system, again, completely collapsing in Havana. And this is what it's like on the other end of communism, socialism, and when your country has been cut off from the rest of the world, big time. And they're going to continue this, almost like a full court press. They're putting the pressure on Cuba now, and at any time, he could turn the guns that way as well. China, Russia saying they'll defend Iran. Will they defend Cuba? I doubt it. They didn't do anything in terms of defending Venezuela. So, where this goes from here, we could see action here within a matter of days or weeks when it comes to Cuba. Got all these options open out there. Venezuela still, and of course, the military surrounding Iran.